For vitrifying a specimen, these are the tools that you need, and we will start from this side. This is the first tool. This is used for filling up the humidifier of the Vitrobot. It's a 60 milliliter syringe, and it also has a modified end that will fit the humidifier of the Vitrobot. The next tool is this tool. This tool is used for aligning the blot pads in the Vitrobot in such a way that the tweezers are centered in the middle of the two blot pads. The next assembly is the ethane tray, which starts with this tray. This tray holds the liquid nitrogen in the outside ring. Then this is a holder which holds all the storage boxes in which we store. We can have 4 boxes here, which we store the prepared grids, and this goes around the centerpiece like so. The next component is the actual brass ethane cup. So in this cup we will prepare our liquid ethane, and this cup goes in the center of the assembly. And since the liquid nitrogen is on the outside, we need to cool this liquid ethane, or we have to make this liquid ethane by cooling, and we do this by using this cooling spider, which has 4 legs, and this goes over the ethane cup and sits like that, in such a way that now via conduction these 4 legs cool the central cup, which is then used for preparing the liquid ethane. And finally we have a ring. This is the anti-contaminator ring, and it also acts to create a cold atmosphere of nitrogen vapor. This ring goes over here. You have to be aware that this ring has a top side, and this can be seen with these small notches that are here. So those are at the top, and the bottom side is completely flat. So these notches have to point upwards, and the ring goes in like so. This is now a fully assembled ethane box. Then we have 2 filter papers. These 2 filter papers with a hole in them are used to blot away the excess liquid after we have applied a droplet of solution onto the grid. These filter papers are held in place by these 2 rings, each of the ring for each of the filter papers that will be mounted inside of the Vitrobot. So moving to the tweezers, there's 2 tweezers that come with the Vitrobot, and they're slightly different from each other. One is for freezing auto grids, which we normally do not do, and the other one is for freezing standard grids, and these are the tweezers that you would normally use. The difference between the 2 can be very easily seen by the clamping mechanisms for clamping the grids. One has a large sliding clamp and the other one has a simple O-ring. So the auto grid tweezers have a simple O-ring, and these tweezers we normally do not use for freezing samples currently. These are the tweezers that we would use, and they have this large sliding clamp. The way to use them is when you pick up a grid at the end. To lock that grid into place, you're going to move these sliding clamps up to the first resist. So at the edge you can see all these lines that have been carved into the tweezers, and you'll move the clamp up to the first line. So the auto grid tweezers we don't use, and we do use a pair of standard tweezers that have been fitted with a kind of insulating material. Here it is cork. You can also use tape. That can be very helpful also during the freezing process. Then we need a pair of pliers. These pliers are generally used to remove the cooling spider from the ethane tray. Once we cool down the liquid ethane, at some point we can create solid ethane, and then this spider can get stuck to the brass ring, and then we need a pair of pliers to actually pull it off. A pair of long standard tweezers can also be helpful. You can always have storage boxes that you accidentally drop into your liquid nitrogen. So to get these things out of liquid nitrogen, a pair of these tweezers are often very, very helpful. So what we also need is a pipette, and you probably are going to use a 10 or 20 microliter pipette. We in general apply a 2.5 or 3 microliter droplet to the grids. Of course, a tip that corresponds to the pipette that you're using. And then finally we have at the bottom here the storage boxes. So this is a blue storage box for storing standard grids. So this is not a storage box for storing auto grids, that's a different one. But this one is used during the freezing process for storing standard grids. It sometimes comes with a lid like this, and that lid can be put on or taken off the box by using a tool like this that goes on top of that lid, like so. And then we can turn that tool and basically mount the lid on top of the box, and at the end there's a release mechanism that can release that. To remove it, the opposite direction, and then you can take the lid off. It also comes with a standard tool, that's this one, which already has the lid incorporated into the tool. That also can be screwed on in the same fashion, and then you have a whole assembly that you can store in liquid nitrogen. And finally, it's also useful to have a standard piece of filter paper for blotting away excess ethane if needed. Then we also need a dewar for pouring liquid nitrogen. Don't use large dewars because you're not going to use large volumes of liquid nitrogen. So just a small dewar would be good for using during freezing. Those are all the tools that we need.